Welcome back to another episode of Stand on Guard. I'm your host, David Krayden. It'll be a very historic day tomorrow, and we're going to talk about what you can do, what we all might be able to do to affect some change. But big things are happening, and I think Canada deserves better than what the Liberals have prepared for us.
Canada arguably faces the biggest threat to its sovereignty and its economic prosperity since the Second World War. And so what we really need a new prime minister, a new Liberal prime minister. So I think the most realistic option is for Mr. Trudeau to announce his resignation and prorogue. And that prorogation will allow for the party for the Liberal Party to execute a leadership race that would have to be held in short order in no more than 2 or 3 months. Eventually, a new leader would be selected. That leader would be sworn in as prime minister. That prime minister could then announce a new cabinet, bring in a throne speech, which would lay out a new legislative agenda for the government.
Now, when we come back, I'm going to explain why I showed you that Andrew Perez clip again, what it means, and an historical parallel I remembered this morning that has some bearing, I think, on whether or not Justin Trudeau is allowed to prorogue Parliament. We'll be right back. We need a political change, but we also need to resolve to resist. So what's going to happen tomorrow? Possibly a number of things. Justin Trudeau could prorogue Parliament, and I'll be showing you a clip from Michelle Rempel-Garner in a second about that. Justin Trudeau could resign. Justin Trudeau could become the interim prime minister and have a leadership race within the Liberal Party. Justin Trudeau could fly to Mars. There's an incredible amount of scenarios that are possible, but they all add up, in the Liberal view anyway, to the Liberal Party benefiting at the expense of Canadians. Now, we just heard this Andrew Perez. I put him on yesterday extensively because nobody else has even realized this guy is saying this. And he's saying, to hell with Canada, to hell with what's happening in this huge existential crisis we're in right now. And no, he doesn't mean climate change. It looks like they've finally woken up. Liberals have finally realized climate change is not the existential threat. 25% tariffs are an existential threat. Losing your job is an existential threat. Not being able to put food on your kitchen table, that's an existential threat. So that's the wake-up call that's come. And so at the same breath that Perez says, we're facing a threat to our sovereignty that's as large as it was prior to the Second World War. Then he says we can have 6 or 7 months for the Liberal Party to get itself in order for the next election. No way. We need a non-confidence motion as soon as the House resumes. And let's have a look at what Michelle Rempel-Garner is saying about this.
Big news this afternoon as rumors are rampant that Justin Trudeau is about to trigger a Liberal leadership race, which would mean that his time as Liberal leader might be drawing to a close. I'm going to break down all of this for you, what these rumors mean about Justin Trudeau potentially triggering a Liberal leadership race, why people are saying this. But before I get into that, I need a big favor from all of you. In the comments right now, if you're watching this on Facebook, in the video description, if you're watching. So late yesterday evening, it was Friday night last night, news leaked out of the federal Liberal Caucus. That's all of the members of parliament in the Liberal Party, that their caucus chair, the person who leads their caucus meeting, had called a special national caucus meeting for Wednesday of this week. Now, that might not be remarkable, except for two things. Three, actually. First of all, this Liberal Caucus chair, she's not known for having independent opinions. She's not known for calling meetings on her own volition. She usually only calls them at the behest of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. So Justin Trudeau would not have called a caucus meeting. Now it's going to be a whopping 6-hour caucus meeting, which is crazy. Most of routine caucus meetings are about 2 hours at most. So there's a 6-hour caucus meeting. There's no way Justin Trudeau would be calling that to have a 6-hour lambasting session this far ahead of Parliament resuming after it rose ahead of Christmas. So the question of a lot of people last night in the Ottawa gossip room mill was like, well, what's happening? Why is this happening? And this meeting also came to pass after Justin Trudeau, he shuffled his cabinet a couple of weeks ago. A lot of members of Parliament of the Liberal Caucus that were passed over for cabinet. So all of a sudden now they're finding their courage. More and more of them are coming out to say, well, I'm going to lose my seat if Justin Trudeau remains leader. Note that they're not criticizing the Liberals' disastrous policies, but they're coming out and asking for his resignation so that they have a better chance of holding their seat. So Justin Trudeau is facing an enormous amount of pressure to resign. Now, what most analysts are saying is that this caucus meeting that's happening on Wednesday, it actually suggests that he is going to trigger a leadership race because, according to the Liberal Constitution, if a Liberal leader triggers a leadership race, the caucus has to do a couple of things. They have to pick an interim leader, and they would be involved in a discussion around what the process to select his replacement would look like. So again, if you're just tuning in, it's really vital that you click on the link that's in the comments or in the video description and click subscribe. The article that I've written there, it outlines everything that I'm saying, and it also will allow me to directly communicate with you, so get over these social media algorithms and Justin Trudeau's censorship.
Yeah, Michelle. Okay, so two important things to note here. Justin Trudeau can call a leadership race. He can call the leadership race with or without proroguing Parliament. Obviously, he's going to prorogue Parliament to do that. And we'll get to the proroguing bit shortly. But think about this for a second. If Justin Trudeau becomes the interim leader, he puts himself in a position of controlling the leadership race. But what if Justin Trudeau decides, I'm going to wait until the Liberal Party begs me to come back? Because who else can replace Justin Trudeau right now? Do they have a candidate in the wings who's acceptable to most Canadians, who most Canadians will somehow think is going to save the Liberal Party? No, not one. This is all going to benefit Justin Trudeau. And it's all designed to benefit not Canada at all. Canada's the last thought the Liberals ever have. It's about benefiting the Liberal Party. Just a bit more, Michelle.
So what could happen? So this rumor was sort of formalized by a senior Globe and Mail journalist posting a tweet that said late last night, everybody's getting ready for Justin Trudeau's resignation or his announcement to leave before Monday. So if Justin Trudeau did decide to say that he wanted a leadership race, the first question many people are asking are like, so what?
So this is a little bit out of date because this is not going to happen before Monday. It's Sunday afternoon right now as I'm speaking. But there's an emergency meeting of the PMO tomorrow morning. And there's going to be a major announcement there.
What happens? Like what would happen next? Well, what I am hearing from some sources in the gossip mill is that Justin Trudeau wouldn't necessarily stop being prime minister. The Globe and Mail reported that he's actually been trying to find a way to trigger a leadership race, but then stay on as, quote, the interim leader as this Liberal leadership race would unfold. This would be a pretty big win for him, because it would allow him, as the Liberal Party leader, to have some control over how his successor was chosen. His cabinet picks would stay in place, and he would also be able to keep senior staff on the payroll, and also be looking for a job for himself while still being prime minister. So the other thing he could do, though, is just simply quit. Now, what this means for you is that instead of going to a general election, which is what we need as a country, we need a general election. Like, I could spend a whole video telling you why, but instead of going to a general election, if Justin Trudeau just quits and says, I don't want to be interim leader, then a small handful of Liberal insiders, the National Board of Directors of the Liberal Party, would literally pick the next Prime Minister of Canada. Like, think about it, like a few unelected people would, with a wave of a pen, just select whoever they want to be the Prime Minister of Canada at a time of crisis. That is actually what would happen. Like, that is actually the process that would happen. Then,
Now, that's bad enough. But think about the timeline here. Either way, time is slipping away, and we're back. Parliament is back on the 27th, 7 full days after the inauguration of Donald Trump, 1 week after the inauguration of Donald Trump. Then it's all about the Liberal Party getting its act together and making itself somehow acceptable to Canadians and Canadian voters.
if Justin Trudeau said, well, I'm going to be the interim leader, okay, so Justin Trudeau stays on, and he's a lame duck prime minister at a time of national crisis instead of going to an election. If there is a scenario here where if the Liberals, these Liberal insiders, choose an interim leader, okay, then they go through a Liberal leadership race. That means that Liberal insiders would pick 2 prime ministers in 2025 instead of going to a general election. So it's completely outrageous, unbelievable. Just like think about this. If you vote Liberal in the past, like, as a Canadian, I'm a conservative, you're a Liberal, whatever. One thing we should agree on is the right of Canadians to participate in the democratic process. And a small handful of unelected Liberal national councillors should not be able to choose the Prime Minister of Canada. It's ridiculous. So we need a general election now. The next question that I have outlined in this article, again, the link is in the comments or the video description. Please click it. Please click subscribe. That many of you will be asking is this. Well, won't the NDP just call a non-confidence vote? This is crazy. How can the NDP support the Liberals? The NDP can't support the Liberals through this, right? Absolutely they could. And I'm going to give you the 2 ways that the Liberals may be able to do this with the help of the NDP. The first is
All right, we'll come back to Michelle in a moment here. But if Trudeau wants this to work, she hasn't said the word yet, but she's getting to it. He can prorogue Parliament, meaning shut it all down. The committee shuts down. The House of Commons shuts down. Legislative work shuts down. And all government bills cease to be. As I said yesterday, I've been pointing out for the last couple of days, private members' bills will survive. And some of these private members' bills are insane. Now, what does Trudeau have to do? Well, he has to get the approval of the Governor General on this. So that's not necessarily going to be an easy, it won't be an easy decision for the Governor General. Let's put it that way. You can get, like I say, you can get the Governor General on X. You can direct message the Governor General on X to say, don't listen to Justin Trudeau. Don't allow him to prorogue the House of Commons, that Parliament, so that we have we do have a non-confidence motion. Because That's the only way around this for Justin Trudeau. To avoid a non-confidence motion, he's going to have to prorogue Parliament. He's going to have to make sure people do not take their seat in the House in January. Yes, and you can find the Governor General on YouTube. Her New Year's message is there. You can respond to on YouTube. And we're going to have this information in the description. Contact info for Canada's Governor General Justin Trudeau requesting proroguing of Parliament. And of course, it's Mary Simon. She's the first Indigenous Governor General. Now, did you know? And I just found this out today. She has been a member of the Trudeau Foundation. She's very much in the bag for Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau made a huge deal out of the fact that he was again appointing not only a woman, but an Indigenous woman to this appointment. The Governor General is Canada's head of state. She represents the Queen. She does things, she makes decisions, not does things, she makes decisions on the advice of the Prime Minister. You and I can influence that decision to say, don't take that advice. All of this information will be in the description. But here's some tips. Don't say nasty things to the Governor General, even though she said some nasty things about Queen Victoria and about how it's okay to topple statues of Canada's imperial past. Be polite. Tell her clearly and succinctly that you believe Canada is more important than the Liberal Party, than Justin Trudeau, than the Trudeau government's future. Canada is more important than the Liberal Party trying to accommodate itself to Canadian voters. That we have to acknowledge Canada. If this is a crisis we're in, this is no time to prorogue Parliament, because that could put off normalcy. That could put off an election for up to 6 months. We went through this yesterday. Leadership review, leadership race. Parliament being prorogued during that time. Calling an election. We might not have a new government until September, October, which is where the schedule was anyway. Trudeau has lost the confidence of Parliament. He's lost his Ontario, Quebec, and Atlantic caucus, and he's got no caucus outside of there. Governor General Mary Simon needs to allow a vote of non-confidence to proceed. Otherwise, she is protecting the Liberal Party, not the sovereignty of Canada, that will plunge Canada into a constitutional crisis. And point out to the Governor General that tariffs of 25% on everything will cause an economic catastrophe, otherwise known as a depression. And this could be the worst catastrophe we've had in decades. Now, it occurred to me this morning, and I want to read this to you. This is from the Center for Constitutional Studies. And the title of this article is The Governor General of Canada, the Role, the Myth, and the Legend. And there's Justin Trudeau, of course, doing his funeral director act at the last induction of his new cabinet of non-entities. And there's Governor General Mary Simon doing the same posture, actually. Quite interesting. They seem to be linked. In the background, you'll see two people who a lot of Canadians probably don't even remember. But I'll tell you who they are. On the left is William Lyon Mackenzie King, who was Prime Minister of Canada during about 3 different periods, from the 1920s to the late 1940s, for over 23 years. Longest serving Prime Minister in Canadian history. And actually, I think the longest serving in Commonwealth history. Very successful politician. On the right is Lord Byng of Vimy. He was a First World War hero. He was a Canadian general who led Canadian troops at Vimy Ridge. He was also the governor general in 1925. And he was the last governor general to say no to the prime minister when the prime minister said he wanted him to do something and the governor general said no. What happened in this case was the last time the governor general refused to accept the advice of a Canadian prime minister was in 1926, 99 years ago. Isn't that interesting? It was called the King Bing Wing Ding, or the King Bing Affair. I remember the King Ding Wing Bing from Wing Ding from university history. And if you've ever taken grade 11 or grade 10 or grade 11 history in high school, you've probably heard of this, and maybe you've forgotten it. This constitutional crisis emerged in the aftermath of the 1925 federal election, where Mackenzie King and the Liberal Party remained in government despite winning less than half of the seats in the House of Commons. King's Liberal Party held only 99 seats after the election compared to the 116 seats won by the Conservative Party of Canada. It was still the Conservative Party at that time, not the Progressive Conservative. King was able to remain in power after the election because he had the support of the Progressives, who won 24 seats. So it's like the Progressive Liberal Party. And the 6 elected representatives who did not affiliate with any party. He had 6 independents plus the Progressives, 30 plus the 99. They gave him 129 seats, more than 116 for the Conservatives. Now, I won't read this verbatim, but what happened? Well, this coalition government fell apart within a year. And Mackenzie King went to the Governor General and said, okay, I want to call new elections. The Governor General, Lord Byng, said, just a minute. The Conservatives have 116 seats. Let them try to form a government. It will be a minority government, but under Sir Arthur Mahan, they did, in fact, establish a government. Now, it didn't last very long, but the Governor General said, constitutionally, I have the right to say no because there's another option here. There's a viable government in waiting with the Conservative Party under Sir Arthur Mahan. And historians agree that the Governor General was correct. He was doing things with constitutional authority. He did not have to take the advice of the Prime Minister. He did not have to buckle under because constitutionally he was authorized to say no. There's another option. He wasn't denying the will of the people. He was affirming the will of the people. And this is what Governor General Mary Simon needs to do. This is what she needs to do, is to affirm the will of the people, their right, the people's right to have an election. Not to wait around for 6 months while the Liberal Party preens and steps in front of the camera and composes talking points and tells you why they've led such a wonderful government over the last 9 years or 10 years now. That is not in the interest of Canada. That is not in the best interest of you or I. That's only in the interest of the Liberal Party and its upper echelon, its party bosses, Justin Trudeau, Chrystia Freeland, Melanie Joly, and Mark Carney. That's who it's in the interest of. The Governor General has the right to say no. No, Canadians deserve an election. Canada needs a new prime minister, not a Liberal one, but a new prime minister. And we all know that's going to be Pierre Poilievre based on polling that puts him almost 30% ahead of the Liberals at this point. Every poll is affirming the same truth. So that's where we need to go. And that's why I'm saying call the Governor General, email her, contact her on X, contact her on social media. And the information is all there. Again, I put that slide up. The information is in the description. Now, a lot of you might say it doesn't matter. It's not going to do any good. We don't know that. We don't know what influences people in power at key points in history. We don't know how pushback from the people can affect real change at times like this in history. But I encourage you to do that over the next 2 or 3 days. Let's listen to a bit more of Michelle Rempel Gardner here.
Possible that Justin Trudeau, if these rumors are true, could go to the Governor General and say, I want to prorogue, which is a fancy way of saying suspend Parliament. That means that the House of Commons shuts down, parliamentary committees shut down, and my party, the Conservative Party, we had this mechanism. We were trying to force a confidence vote at the end of January. If he decided to suspend, like to prorogue Parliament, that would mean that all of that would come to a close. So during that time, not only would Parliament would be suspended, but as I just said, a small handful of Liberal insiders would be picking the next Prime Minister of Canada, as opposed to going to a general election. Like, think about, like, actually wrap your head around how undemocratic this is. And this is like a highly likely scenario right now. So that's option number one, is that Trudeau could just suspend Parliament, and then the NDP wouldn't have to face another confidence vote. But let's say Trudeau doesn't prorogue Parliament. Let's say that the Liberals do not prorogue Parliament, or somehow Parliament is not prorogued. I honestly think that the NDP will continue to support the Liberals. And I'm going to give you 2 reasons why. And again, I outline this in the link that's in the comments or the video description. I've got links to all of this stuff in there as well, so you can read it for yourself.
Okay, so Michelle finally got to prorogue, which of course is the issue of the hour. That is probably where he's going to go, just to avoid the non-confidence motion. And that is the easiest way for him to do that. The MPs never get to come back to their seat and vote. That's exactly what a prorogue would accomplish. Never mind being interim prime minister, never mind setting up a leadership race. All very difficult to do when the House is sitting and there's a non-confidence vote coming any day. So I think that's unrealistic. Obviously, if Trudeau doesn't want to lead the government and his party into the next election, and I still think that's a possibility. I wouldn't be making this broadcast today if I didn't think something was going to happen tomorrow. And it's not about me being right or wrong. It's about you being right and Canada being right. And once again, if you want to contact the Governor General on X, no, the replies are off on X. I'll say this again, but try the direct message. That is where we need to go with this. Now, I want to show you a bit here. What do you think is going to happen if Trudeau meets with the Governor General, and if Trudeau tries to sell her on the idea of proroguing Parliament? Do you think he's going to make her feel completely pressured? Do you think Trudeau isn't going to say, I'm the boss, you have to listen to me? Although constitutionally, she can say no if she thinks there's a better option. Let's revisit this wonderful interview between Selena Chevanes and Jordan Peterson. This is how Justin Trudeau treats women.
So I called the Prime Minister and I said, look, I'm not running again. I didn't even have to give him a reason. I said, I'm not running again. It's 4 years. I'm not getting a pension. I'm not getting anything. I just don't want to do this. He said, well, that was the same day that Jody Wilson-Raybould had stepped down. He couldn't have 2 women of color leave at the same day.
That's what he told you.
It's
Really?
like, dude, that's not my problem. Yeah.
That was his first response to your
anything. I just don't want to do this. He said, well, that was the same day that Jody Wilson-Raybould.
Because that's really not, that's seriously not good.
But wait, there's more.
First response to your, okay, so no, I'm going to play psychologist here for a minute, okay? Because that's really not,
all right, so I'm having trouble pausing this thing. But what do you think What do you think Trudeau is going to say? What do you think Trudeau is going to say to an Indigenous Governor General? I can't have an Indigenous woman who I appointed to Governor General defy me because I'm the boss.
Response to your okay, so that so no, I'm going to play psychology.
First thing he said. So I said, you know, Justin, perhaps if not today or tomorrow or at some point in the future, you'll understand the level of sacrifice that I've made to be in this role. And I repeated it again, not today or tomorrow, but someday I hope you understand the level of sacrifice. And then he was not happy with that. He said, oh my God, Selena, I can't believe that you're talking about my privilege. I was like, what? He said, you know, he started talking about the fact that he has, you know, had death threats too. And that, in my mind, I'm going, but you have an RCMP detail. When me and my kids had death threats, I didn't have anybody, right? Like, so there's a lot of stuff missing from this story, Jordan, that I'm not putting out. But he went on and how I needed to appreciate him because he came to the riding during the by-election and how I should be, you know, grateful to him. And I just was like, oh, hell no. And I said a few choice words to him after that. Because
and that's exactly how this conversation is going to go. If Trudeau goes to the Governor General and demands she prorogue Parliament on his advice, it's going to be the same kind of conversation. So let's be vigilant. Let's watch tomorrow what happens. But I'm encouraging you, be a part of the process, affect the process as much as you can. Tell the Governor General she's the head of state. Yeah, member of the Trudeau Foundation. Yeah, in the pocket of Justin Trudeau. But she has a responsibility to Canada and to Canadians to make the right decision. And she has the constitutional authority to do that. And she should use that authority to stand up for Canadians and not to allow Justin Trudeau to prorogue Parliament for his own personal gain and for the gain, the political gain of the Liberal Party, because that's all this would be about. That's all this would be about. We'll be watching this tomorrow and broadcasting as necessary. These are exciting times. But don't let the Liberals or Justin Trudeau steal your democracy. We need an election. We need a non-confidence motion raised in the House in January, this month. We do not need to see Parliament prorogued. We do not need to see a Liberal leadership race. We do not need to see an opportunity for the Liberal Party to justify its existence. And that's all this would be about. Reminder, things in the store are still 15% off the merchandise. Hats, new hats are available soon. Have a look at the store. We'll be talking more about that tomorrow. Thank you so much. I hope you're enjoying your Sunday. I hope the weather's not too bad where you are. It looks like it's cleared up here for a while. Thank you so much for watching today. Continue to resolve to resist. Continue to believe that right will win, that justice will prevail. Thanks for watching. I'm back tomorrow giving you all the news that you need to know.